Hello, I'm Susan Street. I'm the owner of Vintage Jewelry Supplies Company. Today I'd like to talk to you about brass stampings. We carry more than 4,000 items on our website. A lot of them are brass stampings which are made in the United States. Some of them are made in Germany. Some of our very ornate filigree ones are made in Germany, but I always mention that in the description of the article. This is an example of a brass stamping. These designs are created by stamping a large tool and die with a heavy press into a sheet of brass. This is raw brass. It has sort of rough edges around the sides where the design has been stamped out of brass. When you're working with raw brass, you always need to clean it first. Just wash it as you would dishes. With dish soap is just fine. Just make sure you dry it immediately very well. And that removing of the grease makes it possible for whatever finishes you want to put on to adhere to this. You usually don't have to rough it up, but you can buff it a little bit with a buffing cloth if you want, just to give it a smoother finish. But when you add gilder's paste or paint or Minwax or even shoe polish, you can bring out these details by putting a darker color in the recesses and then go back and touch just lightly over the tops with, say, for instance, gold or verdigris or some of the other effects that you can get from gilder's paste or any of the other finishes that you can get on our website or from any craft store or even a hardware store. The back of the stampings are usually hollow because they are made by stamping into the brass. There's a design that comes up and a design that goes down, and when the presses come together, that's what they form, is a hollow-backed design. These brass stampings come in all incarnations. This one just happens to be in a frame shape with some cutouts. You can also have a design which is an animal or a bird or a dragonfly, which is extremely popular, but the designs are detailed and lightweight enough so that you can use them in jewelry without adding a whole lot of weight. Now, there are times when the item is made from gilding weight brass. It's not hollow on the back, it's solid, but it's also much heavier and thicker. And if you use several of these pieces layered together to make a, say for instance, a pendant, it's going to have quite a bit of weight to it because it is a solid piece of brass. And I'll always mention that in the description of the item. It will say gilding weight brass, and you will know that that is a much more substantial, more expensive piece because it is a lot more brass in the piece. The number of times that something is stamped and manipulated creates a totally different thing. This is a stamping, but it's a filigree that has been further manipulated into a bead, but it's still a brass stamping. It's also been plated silver. This is oxidized sterling silver. The wonderful thing about this is when they make these little stampings, they can easily be formed into a bead that can be opened, and I don't have my needle tool today, so. But you can see how it's joined together here with a little needle, and you can easily pop that out and use this like a setting for a stone because it's already shaped into a ball, sort of. You can also use this as a bead, as a pendant in a necklace or whatever, but I just wanted to point out that it's still a brass stamping, even though it appears to be a bead. This is a very functional piece. It's a filigree, excuse me, and it comes flat. This one, particular one, is raw brass, but we also have it in oxidized sterling silver and oxidized brass, and I believe we might have it in copper as well. It can be used like a pendant by itself. It can be used as a component to build upon. You can add this to a gemstone. This particular item is a purple onyx agate, and you could glue this actually to the front for the first step, and then take your flat nose pliers and gently bend this into a shape that's sort of so that it encompasses this stone and makes a little casing for the stone. Now, I'm showing you this because I want you to see when you manipulate brass, it's a very soft composite metal that can be easily bent and manipulated, but you don't want to fold it like a piece of paper all in one place. It's a very gentle process. You bend a little bit, then you move to another place, and then you move to another place. Be very gentle with it and only do a little bit at a time, and try not to go back and make any corrections and bend it straight, because each time you move it, it becomes weaker and weaker and it can easily break. So you don't want to waste a piece by getting a little too aggressive with it. I personally like to use layered pieces rather than trying to do a lot of wrapping. This is the start of something great. You've got a pendant that you can work with, a pendant loop at the top. You can wrap this around so that it holds the stone in place. And then you can start to add other items onto it. I use a little dot of glue to anchor everything in place. Even when I make a filigree, I form it to fit the object that I'm layering upon. So let's say that you wanted to do this and then anchor the dragonfly from it. So you can also go back and maybe anchor the tail, take a tool and form the tail just a little bit so that it's smooth, but this would be perfectly fine the way it is. Now you say, okay, that's a great pendant. I could live with that just the way it is. There's more possibilities. You can turn it around this way and use it with or without an object upon it, and drop things from here and attach your chain from here. So learn to look at all the possibilities. From here you could add something that is more layers of settings and frames and a stone that matches this, and then drop down here and put a pendant that has a bead that matches this purple onyx agate. There's just lots of possibilities, and I want you to look at it as components, not just one function, not just one way that you can use a piece, especially the filigrees, because they do have so many possibilities. All these little openings on the side, they are strong enough so that you can add chain, jump rings, strands of beads. So there's lots of possibilities for each one. Always look at how you might be able to use it in addition to the way that it's shown. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed this video and that you've learned something new. And we will come up with something new to share with you next week. Thanks.